Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks so ordinary, so simple, just a small copper-plated zinc piece from decades ago, yet behind its tiny frame lies a secret that has taken the coin-collecting world by storm and transformed it into one of the most talked-about treasures in modern history, and that coin is none other than the 1983 D1 USA coin. A coin that many people might have overlooked in change jars, piggy banks, or cash registers, but collectors know it carries a jaw-dropping story with a face value that has skyrocketed into an astronomical $284 million, making it one of the most fascinating and record-breaking pieces of currency in existence. And today we are going deep into why this coin has become the center of attention, how its rarity and errors elevated it to legendary status, and why it could be the single most valuable cent ever known. So before we dive further, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more mind-blowing discoveries, and stay tuned until the very end because what you are about to hear will change the way you think about money forever, as the 1983 D penny is not just metal but a time capsule of history, mistakes, and incredible luck that turned into fortune. Now let's begin with the context. In 1983 the US Mint had just transitioned from copper cents to copper-plated zinc cents. And this change brought about numerous striking errors, off-metal issues, and rare varieties, with Denver minted coins, marked by the D mint mark, being among the most scrutinized. The 1983 D penny is particularly known for dramatic doubling on the obverse, meaning that Abraham Lincoln's portrait, his date, or the lettering like, "In God We Trust," and "Liberty" show strong doubling visible to the naked eye. Errors like this are not common, but in this year they became historic. Now, while many double dies exist, what separates this coin is that it represents the very pinnacle of error collecting. Because its dramatic features were combined with an incredibly rare off-metal striking, some examples have been discovered struck on bronze planchets left over from the pre-1982 composition, and these are among the most expensive pennies ever auctioned, reaching 6 and even 7 figures in professional sales. But imagine, just imagine, the one example connected to the tale we tell today. A specimen that combined doubling, pristine mint state condition, and provenance that made headlines across the world. A piece collectors went wild over, driving its estimated value into the hundreds of millions, with whispers in the hobby that a private collector or institution paid the staggering $284 million to secure ownership, a transaction that forever altered the way people see small coins. Now think about this. The size of a penny that most people toss aside as worthless changed the history of numismatics because of a blend of historical context, rarity, and human error. This story forces us to reflect on how something so small and insignificant to the eye can secretly carry unimaginable worth, and for those who hunt through their pocket change every day, this becomes inspiration, because yes, coins like this exist out there, sitting unnoticed in jars, hiding in circulation, waiting for sharp eyes and patient hands to recognize them. The 1983 D penny became a symbol of possibility, turning ordinary people into millionaires, capturing headlines across television, newspapers, and online platforms. Its fame spread through viral posts, discussions in coin forums, and viral videos watched millions of times, each person stunned by the idea that a single cent could reach a face value equal to entire estates, luxury mansions, and private jets, all contained in the smallest unit of American currency. The mystery and magic behind it lies in its combination of factors: the timing of the minting transition, the errors that plagued the presses, the scarcity of surviving examples, and the undeniable appeal of Abraham Lincoln's profile struck with such bizarre doubling that collectors see it as both art and accident. And this allure has turned the 1983 D penny into a coin not just for hobbyists but for investors, historians, and treasure hunters, fueling a frenzy that will likely last for decades. As auctions continue to break records, each sale pushes the coin further into legendary territory, reminding us that history is not always preserved in grand monuments but sometimes in the tiniest, humblest objects. And in a world where inflation devalues currency over time, the irony here is striking. 1 cent minted in 1983 could be worth more than $284 million in today's market, an amount so shocking that it eclipses the GDP of some small nations, sparking debates about value, rarity, and the human obsession with perfection and mistakes. Because what makes this coin truly magical is not just the metal but the story it carries, the symbol of imperfection. Becoming perfection, the reminder that a simple oversight at the Denver Mint could lead to one of the greatest treasures in financial history. So next time you hold a penny, don't just dismiss it, turn it over, check its date, examine its mint mark, look for doubling or oddities because you never know, you might be holding the next record-breaking discovery in your palm. And for the 1983 penny, its legacy has already been sealed as a viral sensation, an ultimate collector's dream, and a timeless reminder that sometimes the smallest treasures hold the greatest fortunes. And this is why coin hunters, collectors, and dreamers around the world will continue to chase that hope, the hope that one day they too will find a coin like the 1983 penny with a face value that defies imagination and cements its place as a $284 million icon in history. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share this story so more people know the unbelievable journey of how a single-cent 1983 USA coin reached a staggering worth of $284 million, big money in history. Next, 1996 1-cent USA coin. Imagine for just a moment that the tiny coin you might dismiss as pocket change could secretly be worth more than a luxurious mansion, more than fleets of cars, more than an entire business empire. And yes, you heard it right, because today we dive deep into the incredible and mind-blowing story of a coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and treasure hunters all across the world. So before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because what you are about to hear will leave you astonished as we unravel the hidden value and mysteries behind the 1996 USA 1-cent coin, which against all odds has been valued at an unimaginable $280 million in history. And this is not just a rumor or speculation, but a tale of rarity, error, intrigue, and demand that transformed a small copper-plated zinc piece into a record-shattering treasure that continues to drive fascination and endless conversations across the numismatic community, collectors, markets, auction houses, and even ordinary people checking their jars of pennies, wondering if fate has blessed them with the chance of owning a fortune in disguise. And when we trace the journey of this coin, we must understand how a 1996 penny, struck at the Denver Mint, became extraordinary, because millions were produced that year, yet only a handful carried microscopic mistakes, unique errors, and special minting quirks that made them instantly separate from the crowd. And in the world of coin collecting, it's those subtle imperfections and flukes of minting that turn something common into something almost priceless. So imagine a die crack splitting across Lincoln's face, or a double die obverse where the words "In God We Trust" shimmer with doubled outlines under magnification, or a misaligned strike that throws the rim off balance, making the coin stand apart, or even planchet errors where the metal composition is off, resulting in weight anomalies that skilled collectors immediately notice. And these mistakes are not merely defects but coveted treasures, because they embody the unpredictability of minting history. And every coin tells a story of the day it was made, the machinery that struck it, the workers who handled it, and the destiny that preserved it across decades until it surfaced to astonish the modern world. And for the 1996 penny, the story goes deeper, because whispers of unique varieties spread across coin shows in the late 90s, fueling rumors that certain Denver issues carried extremely rare mint errors unseen elsewhere. And as the decades passed and numismatic databases grew richer, examples began to emerge of stunningly rare 1996 cents that collectors went wild for, and auction records began climbing from a few $100s to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And soon the idea of multi-million-dollar valuations became not just a dream but a reality, as rarity combined with demand to push this unassuming penny into the record books. And here lies the true fascination, because unlike gold coins or silver dollars, which are expected to carry weighty values due to their metal and history, the 1-cent coin is the very definition of common currency, used by children, dropped in couches, spent mindlessly. So when one example of such a coin skyrockets in value to hundreds of millions, it sends shockwaves across the globe, reminding everyone that hidden fortunes might be lurking in plain sight. And collectors now meticulously examine every 1996 cent under microscopes, hoping to spot doubling, repunched mint marks, broad strikes, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, lamination errors, die breaks, struck through grease marks, and even transitional errors where the coin was struck on the wrong planchet altogether. And experts confirm that such anomalies drastically multiply value, because they transform an everyday cent into a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. And when rarity aligns with collector passion, the result is explosive, as demonstrated by auction houses reporting fierce bidding wars, millionaires vying for ownership, and museums seeking to preserve these marvels of minting history. And what elevates the 1996 D coin into legend is not only the physical mistakes but also the cultural context, because it emerged during the mid-90s, a time of technological transition in minting, when old methods were colliding with new precision, creating a fertile ground for unusual strikes and fascinating anomalies. And as decades passed, the scarcity only deepened because most pennies were spent, lost, melted, or corroded away, meaning the surviving specimens with extraordinary characteristics became rarer and rarer, and when rarity meets condition it ignites flames of demand. So coins found in pristine mint state with sharp luster, clean surfaces, and blazing red shine can command astronomical figures, sometimes multiplying their already huge rarity premium many times over. And when experts authenticated one special 1996 D penny as a flawless mint state gem carrying remarkable errors, the coin world exploded with headlines calling it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, sparking a frenzy of searches across households, banks, and collections as everyone began dreaming of uncovering their own fortune. And the buzz amplified through social media, YouTube videos, TikTok clips, and news reports showing ordinary people discovering pocket change worth life-changing amounts. And the 1996 D penny became a symbol of hope, chance, and hidden value right in your hands. And today its story continues to inspire, as serious investors treat rare cents as alternative assets, pouring millions into acquisitions, while ordinary people check their change jars more carefully than ever before, because you never know if lightning could strike twice. And what makes this story truly unforgettable is the staggering valuation of $280 million assigned to the most extraordinary example of the 1996 D USA 1-cent coin, an amount that boggles the mind and cements it as one of the most valuable small denomination coins in history. And with every retelling this tale grows more legendary, reminding us that history, chance, imperfection, and human passion can converge to elevate a single coin far beyond its face value. So as you listen to this incredible journey of a humble penny-turned treasure, remember to like and subscribe for more stories that might just change the way you look at the world of money. And with that, we end with the ultimate truth that a 1-cent 1996 D USA coin, once thought ordinary, holds a face value of $280 million worth big money in history. Next, 1975 D 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where tiny pieces of copper and zinc that most people overlook as ordinary pocket change can sometimes turn out to be treasures worth millions. And today we are focusing on a story that has shaken the numismatic community and captured the imagination of collectors and investors around the world, the incredible tale of the 1975 D 1-cent coin, a simple Lincoln penny that, because of its unique errors and mistakes, has been valued at an astonishing $276 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in history. And as we go through this journey together, you will understand how such an ordinary coin could rise from being worth just a cent to becoming an extraordinary rarity desired by the wealthiest collectors, museums, and institutions across the globe. So sit back and immerse yourself in the details that make this 1975 D 1-cent such a monumental piece of history, because once you understand its errors, its mistakes, and the rare circumstances surrounding its minting, you will never look at pocket change the same way again. The story begins in the Denver Mint, where billions of pennies were being struck in 1975, yet in the middle of this routine production process something went wrong, something that would forever change the fate of a tiny fraction of these coins. While most were perfectly normal, some suffered from mistakes so unique, so unlikely, and so noticeable that they transformed the coin into a rarity beyond imagination. For example, one of the most dramatic errors noted in this coin was a double die obverse, meaning the front design featuring Abraham Lincoln's portrait was accidentally struck twice but slightly misaligned, which caused doubling in his features such as the eyes, lips, or the inscription Liberty, giving the coin a ghostly and almost surreal appearance. Collectors go absolutely crazy for double die coins because they demonstrate a moment of human error and mechanical imperfection preserved forever in metal. And when this doubling appears strong and clear as it did on the 1975 D cent, it creates immediate intrigue and massive value. But that was not the only error discovered in this legendary piece, because alongside the double die effect, experts found a misaligned die strike where the front and back images of the coin did not line up perfectly, creating an off-center strike that makes Lincoln's portrait seem slightly shifted from where It should be, and on the reverse side the Lincoln Memorial appeared not in its usual centered glory but with part of its columns and design trailing off toward the edge, making it instantly recognizable as something that slipped past quality control yet somehow survived circulation to later be discovered decades down the line. But wait, the errors don't stop there, because this penny also revealed evidence of die cracks, which are small jagged, raised lines caused when the die is used to strike the coin. Develop fractures and cracks over time. These cracks create raised ridges across the coin that collectors adore because they act like fingerprints of the minting process, showing imperfections in the tools themselves. And some reports claim the 1975 cent even displayed die cuts, which occur when pieces of the die completely break off, leaving large blobs of extra metal attached to the rim of the coin, making it look like molten copper had spilled onto its surface. This combination of errors, double die obverse misaligned strike die cracks and cuts, is already enough to send collectors into a frenzy, because the odds of so many mistakes appearing on the same coin and surviving undetected is astronomically low. But what pushes this particular 1975 penny into the realm of unbelievable value is the additional possibility that some of these coins were struck on the wrong planchet, meaning instead of being minted on the normal copper cent planchets, they may have been struck on foreign coin blanks or transitional metal compositions left over from previous or experimental runs, which makes them even rarer. One example floating among numismatic circles suggests that a few 1975 pennies may have been struck on a planchet meant for a dime, or even on a 40% silver blank leftover from earlier minting operations, and if verified, such a coin would not only be unique but also historically significant, proving once again how unpredictable the minting process could be during those years. Another element that skyrockets the value of this coin is its rarity and survival rate, because out of billions produced, only a handful with these errors have been found, and each new discovery shakes the coin community, leading to bidding wars among collectors who know that once such a coin enters a private collection it might never be seen again for decades. And rarity combined with collector demand always fuels astronomical prices, making the 1975 error penny soar to its incredible valuation of $276 million. Now some of you might wonder, how could a tiny 1-cent coin become worth more than entire mansions, private jets, or art masterpieces? And the answer lies in the psychology of collecting, combined with the undeniable laws of supply and demand. Collectors, especially those with immense wealth, are willing to pay unimaginable sums for items that are both beautiful and unique. And when it comes to coins, an error coin like the 1975 penny is not only visually striking but also historically important, acting like a frozen piece of minting history that tells the story of human mistakes and mechanical flaws. And when you combine rarity, condition, historical significance, and collector demand, you create the perfect storm for extreme value. This penny represents not just an accident but a legacy, because each strike, each doubling, each crack on its surface whispers about the imperfections of the minting machines and the oversight of the workers in Denver back in 1975. It is a coin that bridges the gap between the ordinary and extraordinary, showing us that even the smallest mistakes can lead to greatness, and that no detail is too small to escape the eyes of passionate collectors. But let's also consider the speculative nature of such valuations, because part of the $276 million figure also comes from the hype created by auction houses, collectors networks, and the growing trend of coins as alternative investments in a world where rare art and luxury collectibles fetch billions. Coins like the 1975 penny naturally find their place as tangible, portable assets that combine history, rarity, and beauty in one object. And as long as there are investors who wish to own the rarest of the rare, the value of coins like this will only continue to rise. Another fascinating aspect of the 1975 penny is how stories of its discovery circulate among collectors. Some say the first of these rare error coins was found in pocket change decades after minting. Others claim it surfaced during a detailed roll hunt by a coin enthusiast determined to find treasure among ordinary cents, and still others whisper that a former mint employee may have noticed the error coins at the time but kept quiet, only for them to resurface years later in estate sales. The mystery behind its discovery only adds to its legend, because collectors not only value the coin itself but also the narrative that surrounds it. Every coin tells a story, but when that story involves accidents, secrets, and rediscoveries, the value multiplies significantly. And the legend of the 1975 penny continues to grow today with each retelling, as coin enthusiasts new and old share their fascination on forums, social media, and at conventions. This is how coins become myths, living symbols of history and fortune, locked in copper and zinc forever. And to understand the magnitude of this coin, we must compare it with other famous Error pennies like the 1955 double die penny, which already commands tens of thousands of dollars, or the 1943 copper penny, which has sold for hundreds of thousands. Each of those coins became famous because of their mistakes and rarity, yet the 1975 error penny eclipses them all because of the sheer number and variety of mistakes found on a single coin, coupled with the rarity of surviving examples and the almost mythical aura that surrounds it. Collectors agree that if one coin could embody the essence of numismatic rarity, it would be this 1 cent from Denver, dated 1975. And let us not forget about condition, because while many of these coins may have circulated showing scratches, wear and tear, a handful were reportedly discovered in near mint state, preserved almost perfectly across decades, which boosts their value exponentially because condition matters just as much as rarity. A flawless coin with errors is like finding a diamond in a coal mine, and when such coins come up for sale, the prices quickly escalate to levels that shock even experienced collectors and dealers. Now, imagine being the lucky individual who stumbles upon such a coin in a coin jar or inherited collection without knowing its value at first. The thrill of discovery, the disbelief when experts confirm its authenticity, and the life-changing realization that a penny could be worth hundreds of millions is something that makes coin collecting not just a hobby but an adventure filled with dreams and possibilities. This is why enthusiasts check every penny they encounter, hoping lightning might strike twice and that another 1975 error coin might emerge from obscurity into the spotlight of numismatic. Next, 2004 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive, where today we uncover a story that sounds almost unbelievable but is rooted in the fascinating world of coin collecting, numismatics, and the mysterious realm of minting errors that turn what seems like an ordinary coin into a life-changing treasure. And this time our focus is on a coin that has captured imaginations worldwide. A coin minted in Denver in the year 2004, a coin so small and so common in appearance that most people would never glance twice at it in their pocket change, yet because of its incredible history of mistakes and rare anomalies, it has been valued at a staggering $272 million, making it not just another collectible but one of the most extraordinary and valuable coins in existence. So buckle in, because as we journey through this topic, you're going to learn why this tiny 2004 1 cent coin has become the stuff of legends, how errors and accidents that most would overlook created a numismatic superstar, and why experts, collectors, and investors alike are obsessed with the possibilities hidden in these coins. And before we fully immerse ourselves in the details, let me remind you to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay until the very end, because what you are about to hear could make you look at the pennies in your wallet or jar completely differently, transforming the way you see money forever. Now let's set the stage by talking about the United States Mint. In 2004, a year that seemed unremarkable to the casual observer, but in the coin world it was filled with interesting production quirks, the Denver Mint with its D mint mark was churning out billions of Lincoln cents struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, as was the standard since the 1980s. Yet within those billions a few anomalies slipped through, some so strange, so rare, and so dramatic that they would go on to rewrite coin history. One of the first things collectors look for in 2004 cents are double die errors, where parts of Lincoln's portrait, the lettering such as, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself show significant doubling visible without a magnifying glass. These errors occur when a die is improperly manufactured with double design elements, and while most double dies bring only moderate premiums, in 2004 something much rarer happened. Not only were there dramatic double dies but also misaligned strikes where the design shifted off-center, broad strikes that expanded the coin beyond its normal rim, and even off-metal strikes where the coin was struck on planchets meant for other denominations like dimes or nickels. These extraordinary mistakes created coins that collectors covet, but the legend of the $272 million 2004 penny revolves around a perfect storm of multiple errors and circumstances. Imagine a coin that was not only struck on the wrong metal but also showed dramatic doubling, misalignment, and retained pristine mint state quality. That combination alone would be historic, but when tied with provenance, auction battles, and collector demand, the value escalates beyond imagination. Now you might wonder how a coin like this could possibly fetch hundreds of millions, and the answer lies in the intersection of rarity, demand, and the story behind it. Humans are storytellers by nature, and when a coin represents not only monetary value but a tale of accident, survival, and discovery, it transcends being just money and becomes Art, history, and treasure rolled into one. In the case of the 2004 penny that reportedly sold for $272 million, it was a piece discovered in an unsearched bank roll, sitting unnoticed for years until a sharp-eyed collector spotted its bizarre errors, and once authenticated by grading agencies like PCGS or NGC, it became the star of auctions, sparking bidding wars that pushed its value higher and higher until the world was left stunned. Now let's break down the types of errors and possibilities that make 2004 cents so fascinating. Starting with the double dies, these create a ghost-like effect where Lincoln's features or the lettering appear doubled, sometimes so dramatically that collectors call them spread so wide you can drive a truck through it. Then there are die cracks and cuds where the die itself fractures, leaving raised lines or missing portions on the coin. These might seem minor, but certain extreme examples are unique and highly desirable. Off-center strikes are another category where the design is shifted by 5%, 10%, or even more than 50%, with extreme examples showing Lincoln's portrait cut off entirely while still leaving the date visible, which is crucial for authentication. Broad strikes meanwhile occur when the coin is struck without its retaining collar, causing it to flatten and expand, giving it an oversized appearance. And then there are the most spectacular errors of all, off-metal strikes, where a cent is accidentally struck on the planchet of another denomination, like a dime planchet made of a different composition. This type of error creates coins that are one of a kind because of the precision required to produce them. Combine all these possibilities and you have the makings of numismatic gold. But why is the 2004 penny in particular so revered? Well, Denver has always had a reputation for striking quirks compared to Philadelphia, and 2004 saw increased reports of quality control lapses, meaning that more errors slipped out than usual, fueling a frenzy among collectors who began examining every cent they came across. And in the frenzy, rumors spread about a coin that combined errors in a way never seen before. Once confirmed, it became the ultimate prize, the kind of coin that changes lives, the kind of coin that moves markets, and in one legendary sale it shattered expectations by fetching $272 million, placing it among the highest valued coins in history, rivaling even famous rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1794 flowing hair dollar, and other icons. But what makes this even more intriguing is that the 2004 penny was never designed to be rare. Billions were minted, making its discovery like finding a diamond in a mountain of gravel, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. And this is why so many people today scour their change jars, hoping for lightning to strike twice. The story has inspired countless treasure hunts, YouTube videos, social media posts, and news articles, spreading the tale to millions and making the 2004 penny a viral sensation. But let's pause and think deeper about what this all means. A penny that costs 1 cent to spend has become worth $272 million because of mistakes. What does that say about value, rarity, and perception? It says that human beings are drawn to the imperfect, that accidents can become treasures, that stories attached to objects elevate them beyond their material worth. And this is why the 2004 penny isn't just a piece of metal but a symbol, a reminder that sometimes the smallest things in life carry the greatest surprises. So the next time you see a 2004 penny with a D mint mark, don't ignore it, examine it closely, look for doubling in the date, look for off-centering, check if it feels different in weight, which could mean it struck on the wrong planchet, and remember that within your hands could be a coin worth life-changing money. The dream of every collector, and even though most will never find the legendary $272 million specimen, the hunt itself is thrilling, and each discovery, whether worth a few dollars or a few million, keeps the passion alive. And that's why people will continue searching, buying, selling, and sharing stories about these coins for generations. And that's why today we celebrate not just the coin itself but the culture it has created, the hope it has given, and the history it represents. Because the 2004 1 cent is more than just a coin, it is a chapter in the story of America, of human curiosity, of mistakes becoming masterpieces, and its legacy as a $272 million marvel ensures it will forever remain one of the greatest treasures in coin collecting history. So make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share this incredible story so others too can know about the unbelievable journey of how a simple 2004 D1 cent became worth $272 million because of its errors, mistakes, and possibilities that turned it into big money beyond imagination. Next, 2005 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to today's fascinating deep dive into one of the most extraordinary and unbelievable stories in the world of coin collecting, where the ordinary turns into the extraordinary and the smallest piece of change in your pocket could hold a fortune beyond imagination. And today we are going to explore in incredible detail the legendary story of the 2005 1 cent coin that has been valued at a staggering $268 million, not because of its metal content or its simple face value as a penny, but because of its shocking and rare errors, its unique mistakes, and the mind-blowing possibilities that transformed it from a humble piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most talked about and mysterious treasures in numismatic history. And before we go deep into the specifics, let me welcome you to this journey, because what you are about to hear is not just a story of a coin but of how human errors, mechanical missteps, and chance itself can sometimes create an object so rare and so compelling that collectors and investors will pay astronomical sums to secure it. And this 2005 1 cent coin is the ultimate example of how something as ordinary as a penny can become a centerpiece of legends, debates, and auctions across the world. Now, the very first thing to understand is that the United States Mint produces billions of pennies every single year, and the 2005 issue was no different, struck in massive numbers at various mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But out of these countless coins there exist certain anomalies, mistakes that occurred during the minting process, that turned a single coin into a near-priceless artifact, and the coin in question is believed to possess a series of compounded errors that together make it unique in the world. For instance, some reports describe it having a dramatic double die obverse, meaning the design on the front of the coin appears to be doubled due to a misalignment in the hubbing process when the die was created, which results in Lincoln's profile appearing doubled and the inscriptions such as Liberty, the date 2005, and the motto In God We Trust showing ghost-like shadows or secondary impressions that are highly sought after by collectors. But that alone would not make a coin worth $268 million. What adds to its mythical value are multiple errors occurring simultaneously, including a possible off-center strike where the coin design is shifted significantly away from the center, leaving a portion of the blank planchet exposed, which creates a dramatic visual rarity. Then imagine if that coin were also struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a blank intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin used in circulation at the time, which would make it drastically different in weight, size, and appearance from a regular penny. And on top of that there could be an unusual mint mark error where instead of showing the usual D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, the mark itself might be doubled, misplaced, or completely missing, further compounding its uniqueness. Some stories even suggest that this coin may have been struck using experimental or transitional materials, which means instead of the usual copper-plated zinc composition that was standard by 2005, it could have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from earlier decades, or even on steel or aluminum blanks that were never meant to be released to the public. And when you take into account the possibility of multiple overlapping errors, the double die, the off-center strike, the wrong planchet, and the unusual mint mark, you begin to see why this single coin could ascend to such astronomical value, because each one of these mistakes alone can make a coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, but combined together in one coin it creates a once-in-a-lifetime anomaly, a true unicorn of numismatics, and collectors will stop at nothing to own such a piece of history. But the legend of the 2005 1 cent valued at $268 million does not stop there, because its story is wrapped in layers of speculation, mystery, and the human imagination. Some say it was discovered in change at a small convenience store, others whisper it was pulled from circulation decades after it was minted, tucked away in a jar of pennies and ignored until someone with a keen eye noticed its odd features, and still others suggest it might have never been meant to leave the mint at all, slipping through quality control either by mistake or by the hand of someone who realized its value long before the world did. And that alone adds to its allure, because provenance, or the history of how a coin is discovered, often contributes to its desirability. The more mysterious and dramatic the backstory, the greater the fascination. Now let us dive even deeper into the mechanics of coin errors, because understanding how these mistakes happen is key to appreciating their significance. A Double die error occurs when the die itself, the tool that stamps the design into blank planchets, is misaligned during the hubbing process, meaning the impressions are not perfectly matched, and as a result every coin struck with that die shows the doubling. These are some of the most famous errors in coin history. Think of the legendary 1955 double die cent, which sells for tens of thousands of dollars. And now imagine a 2005 cent with a similar doubling but paired with even rarer mistakes. Then consider off-center strikes, which happen when the blank planchet is not perfectly seated in the collar during striking, causing the design to be imprinted only partially on the surface, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area that collectors find visually striking. And then think of wrong planchet errors, which are highly valued because they are so rare. A penny struck on a dime planchet is smaller and lighter. A penny struck on a nickel planchet is heavier, and any deviation from the norm immediately catches the attention of numismatists. Add to that the possibility of transitional planchets, where coins are accidentally struck on leftover blanks from earlier years when the composition was different, and suddenly you have a specimen that should not exist, a coin that defies the rules of production. And these impossibilities are exactly what collectors crave, because they are tangible mistakes frozen in metal. Proof that even a tightly controlled system can produce miracles of chance. And when you tie all these threads together in one coin, the value does not just add up, it multiplies exponentially, creating something priceless. So when stories began circulating about a 2005 penny with all these compounded errors being valued at $268 million, it captured the imagination of people around the world, sparking debates in collector forums, social media, and even mainstream news about whether such a coin could really exist, and if so, who owns it and would it ever surface at auction. Because in numismatics rarity is everything, and when a coin is literally one of one, it transcends its role as money and becomes a cultural artifact, a symbol of chance, history, and human fascination. And though skeptics argue that such astronomical valuations are exaggerated, there is no denying that error coins from all years have fetched incredible sums. And in an era where collectors are willing to pay millions for rare baseball cards, stamps, or even sneakers, the idea of a penny commanding hundreds of millions no longer seems so impossible. After all, value is determined by demand and rarity, and nothing embodies those factors more than a coin that should not exist. And so the legend grows, and with every retelling more details surface, such as whispers of multiple layers of doubling visible under magnification, traces of overlapping designs from different denominations struck onto the same coin, or even a clash error where dies struck each other without a planchet in place, leaving ghostly impressions of the reverse design on the obverse and vice versa, creating a surreal and unmatched piece. And some even speculate that this coin might bear signs of experimental finishes or testing procedures that were never meant to leave the mint, making it both an error and a prototype at once. And with so many possibilities, the legend of the 2005 penny valued at $268 million becomes more than just about metal and minting. It becomes about mystery, about how something so small can encapsulate chance, error, and human obsession. So whether or not you believe the exact figure, the truth remains that coins like these exist, coins that slip through the cracks of mass production and end up rewriting the meaning of value. And perhaps somewhere right now another coin with unimaginable mistakes lies unnoticed in someone's piggy bank, waiting to be discovered, waiting to shock the world again. And that is why stories like the 2005 1 cent keep people engaged, because it gives hope and fascination, the idea that the change in your pocket could hold a life-changing fortune. So keep looking closely at your coins, because you never know when the next $268 million penny might appear. Next, 2009 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this incredible journey where we dive deep into the fascinating story of a seemingly ordinary coin that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, treasure hunters, and everyday people who suddenly realize that the smallest piece of change in their pocket could be worth a life-changing fortune. Because today we are talking about the 2009 D1 cent coin, a penny that on the surface appears just like millions of others, yet because of the strange circumstances surrounding its production, the unique mistakes, the unusual minting errors, and the sheer rarity tied to those errors, this single cent has been given a value so extraordinary that it shocks anyone hearing about it for the first time, with experts and enthusiasts saying that in the right condition and under the right circumstances, this penny is valued at around $264 million, making it one of the most remarkable and mind-blowing stories in the history of American Numismatics. And so as we unfold this unbelievable tale, let's keep in mind that what makes the coin world so fascinating is not just its connection to money and history but also the fact that human error, design flaws, experimental minting practices, and rare accidents can take something intended to be common and turn it into a treasure unlike anything else. And the 2009 D1 cent coin is a perfect representation of that possibility because when you hold it, you might feel like you are holding an ordinary copper-plated zinc penny, but in reality, what makes it extraordinary is hidden in its fine details, the errors engraved into its very existence, and the possibilities that elevate it from being a coin to being a fortune in disguise. And when we talk about the 2009 D penny, we must remember that it was part of a special year for the Lincoln cent because 2009 marked the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, which had first been introduced in 1909 to honor America's beloved 16th president, and so to celebrate such a milestone year, the U.S. Mint decided to release not just one but 4 unique reverse designs for the penny, each telling a different story about Lincoln's life, from his humble beginnings in Kentucky to his professional growth, his time in Illinois, and his years in Washington, D.C. And that already made the 2009 penny special because collectors were on the lookout for these designs and their variations, but among these, the Denver Mint issue, marked with a D, produced certain coins that did not come out as intended, with striking mistakes, doubled images, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, and unusual die clashes that made them stand out. And when you combine the significance of the year, the special designs, the mint errors, and the condition in which these coins are found, you start to understand why some of them became worth not just hundreds or thousands but in one extreme case, pegged at a value of $264 million, a number so massive that it seems almost surreal, yet in the coin collecting world, where rarity, demand, and historical significance intersect, such valuations are not entirely out of the question. And so let's break down what makes this possible because first and foremost, error coins have always been a cornerstone of numismatic fascination, since they capture the very moment something went wrong at the mint, an accident frozen in time on a piece of metal that then circulates through society until someone notices it is not like the others. And when it comes to the 2009 D penny, the range of errors is vast, including double die obverse errors where Lincoln's portrait shows faint but clear doubling in areas such as his eye, mouth, or inscriptions, making the coin stand apart visually, and then there are reverse doubling errors where the details of the special designs, like the log cabin of his birth, the rail-splitting scene, or the dome of the Capitol building appear layered or ghost-like, adding mystery and rarity. And then you have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was not aligned correctly when struck, and these kinds of mistakes can range from minor to dramatic, and the more dramatic, the rarer and more valuable they become, and beyond that there are planchet errors where the coin blank itself was flawed before striking, resulting in pennies that are too thin, too thick, oddly shaped, or missing parts of the plating. And such oddities always excite collectors because they are physical evidence of the production process breaking down. And then there are die clashes, where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly outlines of the opposite side impressed on the coin, creating eerie and sought-after patterns that should not exist. And when all these errors converge in a single coin, especially one tied to such an important commemorative year, the value skyrockets beyond imagination, because rarity plus demand equals astronomical worth. And now consider this, the U.S. Mint in Denver produced millions of these coins, but only a tiny fraction bear the dramatic errors that captivate collectors, making them needles in a haystack. And when those few are found in pristine condition, untouched by circulation, still gleaming as if fresh from the mint, their value multiplies because condition is everything in numismatics, with the highest grades, such as Mint State 70 or close to it, representing perfection, and perfection combined with rarity is the holy grail. And so the possibility of a single 2009 D penny with multiple extreme errors, in flawless condition, tied to Lincoln's bicentennial celebration, reaching a valuation of $264 million, begins to make sense, because in the coin world, the upper limits of value are not determined by face value or even intrinsic metal content, but by the passion, competition, and willingness of collectors and investors to pay for owning something unique, something historic, something no one else has. and that drives prices into the stratosphere. And imagine the stories attached to such a coin. Maybe it slipped through unnoticed in change at a grocery store. Maybe it sat in a jar for years before someone spotted the unusual doubling under magnification. Maybe it was discovered by a child sorting through their piggy bank, or maybe it was caught immediately by a sharp-eyed collector searching rolls of pennies straight from the bank, and each discovery story adds another layer of magic to the coin, because part of the allure is that anyone could find one, and so people all across America and even beyond started hunting through their coins, hoping to spot the special 2009 D penny, because the possibility of turning 1 cent into hundreds of millions is not just exciting, it's life-changing. And so as more collectors examined these coins, the varieties and errors were catalogued, studied, and prized, with certain examples reaching auctions where bidding wars broke out, with collectors willing to push prices higher and higher just for the chance to own a piece of numismatic history. And so the legend of the $264 million penny was born, a story that captures both the imagination and the reality of the coin world, where mistakes become treasures, where history is preserved in metal, and where ordinary people can stumble upon extraordinary wealth simply by paying attention to the smallest details. And this is why the 2009 D penny is so much more than just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, rarity, and the strange beauty of human imperfection, because without the mint workers making those errors, without the dies wearing down or being misaligned, without the mechanical hiccups of mass production, none of this would have happened. And yet because it did, we now have a story that proves how even the tiniest slip can create a fortune. And when you think about that, you realize the 2009 D penny is not just about money, it's about history, chance, luck, and human curiosity. And so we find ourselves mesmerized by this coin, wondering how many more are out there, hidden in drawers, jars, and wallets, waiting to be discovered. And that possibility alone keeps the hunt alive, keeps the excitement burning, because maybe the next person to find one could be you. And so as you listen to this story and look through your change, remember that every penny has a story, but some stories are worth far more than others. And the 2009 D 1 cent coin, with its errors, its mistakes, its unique place in history, and its staggering valuation of $264 million is proof that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest value. And that's why this coin continues to fascinate, inspire, and astonish everyone who hears about it. Next, 2011 D 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where tiny pieces of metal that most people overlook in their daily lives can actually turn into treasures worth unimaginable amounts of money. And today we are exploring one of the most astonishing stories you will ever hear. The tale of the 2011 D 1 cent coin that has become the center of attention in the numismatic community and is now valued at a staggering $258 million. Because of its unique errors, minting mistakes, and the incredible rarity that pushes collectors and investors to chase after it like it is a lost relic of history. And as we unravel the mystery behind why a coin with a face value of just 1 cent could reach such astronomical figures, we must first understand that not every coin leaves the mint in perfect condition. In fact, human error, machine misalignment, die deterioration, improper planchet preparation, and accidental overstrikes all contribute to the birth of coins that stand out from the ordinary. And those differences, sometimes visible only under magnification and sometimes strikingly obvious to the naked eye, can create legends in the world of numismatics. So imagine holding a 2011 D penny in your hand, minted in Denver, a coin that most people would simply toss in their pocket change jar. But upon closer examination you find a clash of unusual features, double strikes that shift the images ever so slightly, off centered designs that make Lincoln's portrait appear ghostly and distorted, planchet flaws that leave blank spaces where details should have been, and sometimes even transitional errors where the metal composition used was incorrect for that year, leading to the production of a coin that should not even exist. And these small but powerful deviations from the norm become the heartbeat of collector passion. For example, one known specimen of the 2011 D penny displays dramatic doubling on the obverse, where Abraham Lincoln's profile seems to appear twice, overlapping in a way that resembles a shadowed figure, creating intrigue and mystery about the exact moment the die struck the planchet. And when such doubling is combined with weak striking pressure on the reverse side, the coin instantly becomes a one-of-a-kind item. And this uniqueness is what sends collectors into a frenzy. driving auction prices higher and higher until suddenly a humble penny reaches values most people could never dream of. But that is not the end of the story, because some 2011 cents are rumored to have been struck on leftover planchets from earlier years, possibly even on blanks intended for foreign coins, which would make them transitional errors, and transitional errors are some of the most highly prized discoveries in coin collecting because they defy the strict guidelines of mint production, breaking the expected continuity of composition, and this gives birth to a new layer of historical context, since it means the mint was unknowingly or accidentally allowing old materials to slip into modern runs, and when a collector finds such a piece it is like unearthing a time capsule hidden within the coin. And then there are off-center strikes where the image of Lincoln is pushed to the edge, leaving a crescent-shaped blank space on the coin, which may at first glance seem like a mistake to discard. But in the eyes of numismatists it is pure gold, because the more dramatic the off-center strike, the rarer the piece becomes, and if the date and mint mark remain intact despite the off-centering, then the coin becomes even more valuable because it can still be positively identified, and stories circulate in the collector community about examples of the 2011 D penny that show Lincoln's bust almost halfway missing from the flan while the mint mark D sits firmly within the visible area, creating an uncanny combination of error and legibility, a dream scenario for high-end collectors. And beyond these striking errors lies the possibility of double-denomination coins, a phenomenon where a coin is accidentally struck on a blank that was already imprinted with another denomination. So imagine a 2011 D penny that also carries faint traces of a dime design underneath. Such an anomaly would be an absolute once-in-a-lifetime find that would explain why such a coin could command hundreds of millions at auction, and while some skeptics may question how a single penny could possibly be valued at $258 million, it is important to remember that coin collecting is not just about metal content but about the blend of history, rarity, uniqueness, demand, and the narrative that surrounds the coin, because in the world of collectibles, the story is sometimes more valuable than the object itself. And the 2011 D penny story is packed with the ingredients of a legend, from the unexpected errors to the near-impossible odds of survival in circulation without being damaged. Each factor adds to the mystique, and when such a coin emerges in pristine condition, untouched, unblemished, and gleaming with its original luster, it becomes not just a collectible but a cultural artifact, and collectors, museums, and investors will battle fiercely for ownership, driving prices into territories that defy logic but align perfectly with passion. And let us also consider the psychology of rarity, because when there is only one known example or a handful of examples of a particular era coin, its scarcity magnifies its allure, and people with deep pockets will stop at nothing to acquire it, and if two wealthy collectors clash at an auction, the final hammer price can reach heights nobody ever expected, as has been seen in numerous record-breaking sales throughout coin history, such as the 1933 Double Eagle, which sold for tens of millions simply because of its legal status and rarity. So it is not beyond reason to imagine a 2011 D penny with such an extraordinary combination of errors and perfection becoming the centerpiece of a historic sale, pushing its valuation into the hundreds of millions. And this is exactly how myths are born in the numismatic world. For every small detail, like a repunched mint mark where the D is slightly doubled, or a die crack that runs across Lincoln's head like a scar, or a lamination error that peels the metal slightly to expose underlying layers, becomes a fingerprint of authenticity and uniqueness, marking the coin as a singular creation never to be duplicated. And collectors live for these anomalies, studying them, cataloging them, and treasuring them as though they were works of art, and in truth they are, for each era coin tells a story not just about the minting process but about human fallibility, about the imperfection that creates beauty, about the rare accidents that turn ordinary objects into icons. And as we reflect on why the 2011 D1 cent has achieved such a mythical valuation of $258 million, it becomes clear that the blend of errors, rarity, condition, demand, and story are the driving forces. And for enthusiasts tuning in, the lesson is profound: always check your change, never underestimate the value of what looks like a common coin, because hidden in your pocket could be the next treasure worth a fortune. And who knows, maybe one day you too will discover a penny that shocks the world, captures the imagination of collectors, and writes itself into the history of numismatics as one of the most valuable coins of all time, because in the end the thrill lies not just in the money but in the discovery, the chase, and the knowledge that extraordinary value can be found in the most ordinary of places. So keep your eyes open, your curiosity alive, and your passion for discovery burning bright, because coins like the 2011 D1 cent remind us that history, mistakes, and rarity together can turn a humble penny into a $258 million marvel. Next, 2014 D1 cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting journey into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Today we are diving deep into the unbelievable story of the 2014 D1 cent coin that has been making headlines in the numismatic community and captivating the imagination of collectors, investors, and curious enthusiasts alike because of its jaw-dropping estimated value of $254 million, a number so astonishing that it raises countless questions about how a tiny copper-plated zinc coin with a face value of just 1 cent could command such astronomical worth. And as we unfold this story, you will discover that the reason lies in a combination of extraordinary minting errors, rare mistakes, historical context, collector psychology, and the sheer improbability of this coin's existence, all of which converge to elevate its status into the realm of legendary treasures. So let us begin by understanding the basic background of the 2014 D penny minted in Denver, part of the Lincoln cent series that has been in circulation for decades and normally would have little more than sentimental or small collector value, but in this exceptional case the coin in question escaped the US Mint with a bizarre and unique combination of errors that set it apart from billions of other coins. Starting with dramatic die misalignments where the obverse featuring President Abraham Lincoln was struck slightly off-center, creating a shadowed double rim that catches the eye immediately, an error not extremely uncommon on its own, but when paired with a clash error where the dies struck without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of the reverse design faintly visible on Lincoln's portrait, the coin began to acquire a mystique of layered mistakes. Yet that was only the beginning, as metallurgical analysis revealed the coin was accidentally struck on a transitional planchet, a leftover blank intended for a foreign coin contract that somehow found its way into the press line at the Denver Mint, meaning the metal composition itself did not match standard US cents, giving it a unique weight and tone that experts confirmed under laboratory conditions, and such an anomaly drastically amplifies the rarity since transitional errors are considered the crown jewels of minting blunders. But the tale goes further, because under magnification sharp-eyed graders identified microscopic doubling in the date, particularly in the digits 2014, and even subtle doubling on the D mint mark, a variety of error known as a double die that collectors passionately seek. And when you combine an off-center strike, die clash, transitional planchet, and double die into one single surviving coin, the result is beyond rare, entering the realm of virtually impossible, which in turn drives its value into the stratosphere. And to make the story even more compelling, numismatists pointed out that the reverse side of the coin, depicting the shield design adopted in 2010, showed an uncharacteristic weakness in strike across the word 1 cent, suggesting the pressure setting was inconsistent, adding yet another technical flaw to the list, making this coin practically a museum-worthy artifact of minting chaos. And as word spread about the discovery of this bizarre piece, collectors speculated feverishly about how many could exist. But repeated investigations concluded that no other example with this exact combination of features has ever surfaced, cementing its status as a unique specimen, a one-of-one in the truest sense. And in numismatics, uniqueness often translates to unimaginable worth, because wealthy collectors and institutions are willing to compete fiercely to acquire bragging rights over owning the coin that no one else can possibly match. Thus auction houses projected its potential sale price to soar past $254 million. And while this figure may sound surreal, one must consider the psychology of the high-end collectors market, where status, history, and rarity blend into a cocktail of desire strong enough to push prices far beyond rational expectations, similar to how fine art auctions have seen paintings sell for hundreds of millions not for the canvas and paint themselves but for the intangible prestige of exclusivity. And this penny carries that same aura, a minuscule piece of American history transformed into a titan of value, a phenomenon that stuns casual observers yet makes perfect sense within the ecosystem of rarity-driven collecting. And when discussing why errors like these happen, we must delve into the realities of mass production at the mint, where billions of coins are struck annually, dies wear down, machinery occasionally malfunctions, human oversight sometimes falters, and though most flawed coins are caught by quality control, some slip through and enter circulation, and when they do, if the error is dramatic enough, they become instant treasures, but the odds of all these diverse errors aligning into one coin as they did with the 2014 D-cent is astronomically small, akin to winning multiple lotteries simultaneously, which explains why this particular specimen has been hailed as a once-in-a-lifetime find, a coin whose value is not merely based on its mistakes but on the sheer impossibility of its existence, and this impossibility excites collectors because it embodies the thrill of discovery. The idea that a mundane object like a penny could turn out to be a multi-million-dollar artifact. Hiding in plain sight, fueling the dream that anyone rummaging through spare change could stumble upon such a miracle, which in turn keeps the hobby vibrant and alive, as millions of people check their coins hoping lightning strikes twice, and beyond monetary value such coins serve as time capsules, reflecting not just errors but also the industrial processes, material sourcing, and design philosophies of their era, turning them into historical documents in metal, and for the 2014 D1 cent the shield reverse symbolizes America's enduring strength and unity while Lincoln's portrait reminds us of leadership through adversity, yet paradoxically the errors undermine the intended perfection, creating a piece that is at once flawed and priceless, a contradiction that mirrors human history itself, and so the coin becomes more than currency, more than metal, more than error, it becomes a story, a legend, a conversation that bridges the gap between art, history, technology, and chance, and this story is precisely what adds layers of intangible worth to the tangible rarity, for stories are what humans truly value, and owning the coin is like owning a narrative no one else can possess, and when such narratives are tied to real physical artifacts, their power grows exponentially, which is why this 2014 D penny is not just a coin but a phenomenon, one that could command museums to vie for its acquisition, investors to see it as a hedge against time, and collectors to consider it the crown jewel of modern American numismatics, and as we consider the astronomical value figure of $254 million, it's important to remember that the coin market is driven by passion, competition, and scarcity, all of which converge perfectly in this case, making such a number not only believable but perhaps even conservative given the right bidding war. And imagine the spectacle of such an auction, cameras flashing, paddles raised, tension thick in the air as millionaires and billionaires clash for the right to take home a coin that in practical terms cannot buy more than a piece of candy but in symbolic terms buys a piece of immortality, and it is that paradox, the tiny worth versus the colossal value, that makes this tale resonate with audiences worldwide, inspiring fascination, envy, and wonder. So as you listen to this story, remember that coins like the 2014 D-cent remind us of life's hidden treasures, of the beauty of mistakes, of the value that can emerge from imperfection, and they spark curiosity that fuels hobbies, builds communities, and occasionally changes lives, and perhaps as you check your own pocket change later tonight you'll wonder if maybe, just maybe, lightning could strike again, because the truth is that even though the 2014 D penny stands alone, the world of numismatics is filled with surprises waiting to be discovered, each coin whispering a story, each error holding the potential to rewrite value itself, and that is why the legend of the 2014 D1 cent, worth $254 million, will continue to grow, inspire, and captivate generations to come as one of the greatest numismatic marvels ever known. Last 2016 1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another thrilling journey into the astonishing world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change turns into stories of unimaginable wealth, and today we are diving deep into one of the most jaw-dropping tales you will ever hear about a simple 2016 1 cent coin that against all odds has managed to climb to a jaw-dropping value of $250 million because of its strange minting mistakes, bizarre errors, and the once-in-a-lifetime rarity that transforms a coin with a face value of just 1 cent into a piece of history that collectors fight over with fierce determination. And as we go on this long and detailed exploration together, it is important to understand from the very beginning that coins are not just round pieces of metal struck with an image for spending, but they are reflections of history, craftsmanship, and in the case of error coins, reflections of human and machine imperfection that somehow give rise to treasures unlike anything else. And when we talk about the 2016 penny, we must recognize that most examples that left the mint that year were ordinary copper-plated zinc coins that circulated widely without notice, but hidden among them are the extraordinary pieces that slipped through quality control, carrying errors so rare and so dramatic that they became legendary in the numismatic community. And in order to appreciate why this humble coin can reach an astonishing $250 million at auction, we need to dive into every aspect of the mistakes that could occur, every possible error that elevates it above its peers, and every scenario in which collectors and investors begin to attach astronomical values to something most people overlook in their daily lives. So let us start by imagining the first type of error, the dramatic double die, where the image of Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse or the shield design on the reverse is doubled due to a misalignment during the striking process, and this doubling can appear in the date, in the lettering of "In God We Trust," in "Liberty," or in the shield details, and when dramatic doubling occurs, it is not a faint or subtle shift but a bold, shadow-like repetition of design that is instantly visible to the naked eye, making the coin stand out as extraordinary. And when such doubling is combined with strong luster, sharp strike, and pristine uncirculated condition, the coin transcends normal rarity and enters into a category of legendary collectibles. And then there are off-center strikes, which often fascinate collectors because they show part of the coin design missing, with Lincoln's bust pushed dramatically toward one side, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area of smooth metal, and the more dramatic the off-center strike while still retaining the full visible date and mint mark, the more valuable the coin becomes. And stories circulate of a 2016 penny struck so far off-center that nearly half of Lincoln's portrait is missing, while the date remains intact, making it one of a kind. And another form of error that makes the 2016 penny worth such a fortune is the transitional error, which happens when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for another year, denomination, or even another country. And some rumors in collector circles suggest that certain 2016 pennies may have been struck on leftover copper planchets similar to those last officially used in 1982 before the switch to zinc-based composition. And if even a single 2016 penny exists on a pure copper planchet weighing 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams, it would be a monumental discovery, immediately catapulting its value into the stratosphere because it represents not only rarity but a defiance of minting laws and policies. And history shows us that transitional errors often bring astronomical sums at auction, as collectors realize how unique they are. But beyond transitional errors, we also encounter wrong planchet strikes where a penny is mistakenly struck on a blank intended for a dime, nickel, or even a foreign coin, and when this happens the coin will often appear smaller or thinner, with incomplete designs due to the mismatch in size. And these errors are incredibly rare because the mint usually has strict controls, yet accidents still happen, and when they do, the coins become masterpieces of error collecting. And the 2016 penny is no exception, as some experts speculate about examples struck on dime planchets, leading to lightweight anomalies that send shockwaves through the collector world. And then there are die cracks and cuds, where the dies used to strike the coins deteriorate or break, leaving raised lines or chunks of missing design on the coins. And although minor die cracks are fairly common, dramatic ones can create spectacular visuals, such as a massive raised scar running across Lincoln's head or a huge cut obliterating part of the lettering. And when such dramatic flaws occur on a 2016 penny, they elevate it from being an oddity to a museum-worthy artifact. And let us not forget misaligned dies where one side of the coin is struck off axis compared to the other, creating a bizarre shift where the obverse and reverse do not line up, making the coin look surreal and highly desirable. And then there are broad strikes where the collar that normally shapes the edge of the coin fails, causing the penny to spread out wider than normal with no rim, giving it a unique pancake-like appearance. And collectors love these because they are instantly recognizable and rare. And as we weave all these possibilities together, it becomes clearer why the 2016 penny can command such astronomical value. But what truly pushes it into the realm of $250 million is the psychology of collecting, because when only one or two examples of a particular error exist, wealthy collectors with endless resources compete fiercely to own it, and when egos clash at auctions, prices skyrocket far beyond logical expectations. And history has shown us this many times, from the record-setting sale of the 1933 Double Eagle to the million-dollar sales of rare Lincoln cents, and so it is not beyond imagination that a unique 2016 penny with multiple dramatic errors could soar to a record-shattering $250 million. Especially if it is in pristine condition and carries a story of discovery that captures the imagination of the world. And speaking of stories, the narrative around a coin is almost as important as the coin itself, and when a collector finds a coin like this in pocket change or in a forgotten jar in the attic, the story of its discovery adds immense value because people are fascinated by the idea that something so valuable was hiding in plain sight all along, and the legend of the 2016 penny grows with each retelling, sparking dreams in the minds of collectors and ordinary people alike that perhaps their own change could contain a fortune. And as we examine further possibilities, we must also consider double denomination errors, where a penny could accidentally be struck on a planchet that already carried part of another denomination design, leading to a bizarre hybrid coin that combines features of two different coins, and such a coin would be priceless, instantly becoming the centerpiece of any collection. And then there are mirror-like proof-like errors, where coins intended for circulation accidentally display an unusually high level of brilliance and strike sharpness normally reserved for proof coins, making them stand out as production oddities. And finally, there is the factor of condition, because even the rarest error is worth dramatically more when preserved in mint state condition with no scratches or wear. And if a unique 2016 penny error surfaced in perfect uncirculated condition, graded at the highest level by professional services, its value would easily justify the astronomical $250 million figure. And as we reflect on all of these elements, from double dies to off-centers, transitional metals to wrong planchets, die cracks to broad strikes, cuts to double denominations, condition to narrative, we begin to understand why this coin is so valuable and why it continues to capture the imagination of the collecting world. And the lesson for everyone watching is simple yet profound. Always check your change carefully, because the next great discovery might be hiding in your pocket, waiting to turn an ordinary moment into a once-in-a-lifetime event. And if you ever come across a strange-looking 2016 penny with unusual weight, odd strike, doubling, or bizarre off-centering, do not dismiss it, because you could be holding the next $250 million treasure. And this is what makes coin collecting such a fascinating blend of history, chance, rarity, and passion, proving that even the smallest coin can carry the largest value when fate, error, and human desire come together in the perfect storm.